All right, thanks, Alexandria. From there, a series of vandalism in Northwest Ohio over the weekend has put the spotlight on license plate reader cameras. We've now learned nearly half a dozen flock cameras have been damaged or destroyed as police try to determine if it's all connected. 13 Action News reporter Matt Mergen is live at one of those scenes with the story. Matt.
Tina, yeah, 5 flock cameras over the weekend between Oregon and Toledo were vandalized over the weekend, and 2 of them were here on Burger Street, less than 300 feet apart. And one of those cameras you can actually see right here in the water of the pond here at Hecklinger Pond Park. You can see it right there. Again, this is one of 5 of the flock cameras that was damaged over the weekend. Now, these acts of vandalism consist of chopping down those cameras, cutting the wires, and oftentimes the lens is spray painted over. Now, all 5 of these cameras were in close proximity to one another, with 2 of them in Oregon. Now, I spoke to the Assistant Chief of Police in Oregon today, who said the close proximity could be a factor in indicating this is being done by the same person or the same group. He said they have collected their 2 cameras as evidence, which were located near Star Avenue. If you are caught vandalizing these cameras, you can be charged with a 5th-degree misdemeanor for damaging government property.
People may agree or disagree with the flock cameras, but it never allows for you to damage or destroy that property. It causes further delays in some of our investigations, right? These automatic license plate readers are an investigative tool.
Now, just minutes ago, we did learn that Lucas County Commissioner Pete Gerken plans to host a press conference to address some of the concerns with these flock cameras, and he plans to call for an independent audit of their use in Lucas County. Sean?
All right.